My friends, I am with Dan Miller, incredible individual, hyper helpful individual on the topic of health. He joined me and our community of CEOs in November of 2019. Dan changed a number of things in my life and that of the other CEOs who were there. In my case, one, I'm in the sauna every morning, 4 a.m. for half an hour. Two, I'm outdoors every day for at least half an hour for some kind of walk or sunlight. Three, monthly 3-day fast. Those are the first things on the list. Dan's a guy you meet, and if you're listening, things change. So Dan, you're at the epicenter of health at a time when health is front and center for everyone right now. The prospect of sickness looms for some people. The world's been turned upside down for a lot of businesses. Perhaps you can share a perspective, not just on COVID, but really on broader concerns people should have on their minds. So incredible time to have you with us. Thanks for joining. You were just out of Johns Hopkins, so you're really in the mix with some of the best perspectives on this. Anything you can share, we'd love to hear. Welcome, and if you would, share what's fresh on your mind.
Yeah, let's just jump into all of this stuff. So my goal and my mission when I wake up every day is to make sure people don't die of diseases they're creating themselves. And a lot of what's happening in modern societies are self-induced diseases of modern society. We're doing these things to ourselves. When we look at why people die in the United States, we've got heart disease as the number one killer, and the CDC says that the vast majority, well over 90% of that, is preventable. We've got cancers and drug overdoses and suicides in the mix, most of which are preventable or reversible because they're not single gene disorders that we're born with. They're not environmental diseases from animals, insects, or sanitation. We're, by and large, dying way, way too early. And most of that is in our control. And we feel, and the way I feel out in society is that people don't understand how much power and control they have over their own health. So what we do is we just do whatever, we hope for the best, and then when something breaks, we go to modern medicine and say, hey, fix this for me. I know you have a pill for this. I don't want to give up French fries. You need to give me a pill. That's what this is all about. And sadly, that only works for about 70 years for us, and then we die in pain. We die with diseases that hurt the entire time we're dying. We leave a family behind that we left way too early. I mean, my dad died at 56 years old. He suffocated to death in the hospital. My mother died last year. She was 74. She suffocated to death in a nursing home. These were preventable deaths to a point, right? No one's going to get out alive, but how are we dying? And more importantly, how are we living along the way? Because we're tolerating obesity. We tolerate being sick. We've got almost half of Americans are on an antidepressant. We tolerate being sad every day. Life is amazing, and we're doing things wrong, and it's because everyone else is doing them around us that we feel the need to just fit in with that, which is fairly normal when we look at tribal relationships. So I walk around this planet, I fly around this planet, I'm on the road 200 plus days a year, flying and driving around this planet to make sure people understand how much power they have in their own health.
How often do you get sick? A lot of people get sick when they travel.
I haven't been sick in 8 years. I just don't get sick.
And it's not about building an immune system. So what do you do to fortify your system against illness, which is obviously a question that's on a lot of people's minds now.
Can we park that one till the end of this? Because I want people to understand where this whole...
Good luck. Let's try it.
So it's the 14th of March. Next week, when we have this conversation, it'll be a different conversation because things are moving so quickly. And there's even people in infectious disease going, we don't know, let's see what happens, but here's our best guess. So what I want to do with you today is talk about this silly little virus that is incredibly, incredibly fast moving, incredibly deadly if you are already sick. And for most people that are supremely healthy or even in moderate amounts of health, this thing is really not acting that bad in those folks. So I'm not going to share opinion. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that, and I stay on top of this. I'm on this every single day. I want to know the latest data. I want to know what people are saying, and not just the CDC, and I'm not getting my news from Google and CNN. Because if I was getting my news from Google and CNN, I'd already be buying toilet paper and wearing a stupid mask in the grocery store. That's not helping. So, it's really actually hurting when we look at this. So are you ready to get into a couple of things? So some of the notes.
I'm ready for this. Let's do it.
Some of the notes I'm going to talk about first are from the clinical director of the Division of Infectious Disease at Johns Hopkins. Just so you guys are aware of what we're dealing with here, the virus is called SARS-CoV-2. So it's not the COVID-19 virus. That's the name of the disease that the virus causes. So SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome CoV-2, that's the name of the virus. So this is an acute respiratory syndrome. It's in the upper respiratory tract that's affecting most people. And that's why some folks are seeing coughing, dry cough, and shortness of breath when they're afflicted with this. So the theory is this, just so everyone knows where this thing started, this is just a theory. They're doing best guess based on how they're looking at this virus, is that back in November of 2019, this virus jumped from an animal to a human somewhere in Wuhan City, China. So they're guessing it was either from a bat or this cute little animal called the pangolin, which is a scaled mammal. So they're guessing it jumped somewhere in November. That's when they first started seeing cases. And now we're in March, and we've got this just about all over the world. Very few cases right now in Africa, but just about all over the world already. So this is very, very fast moving. It's going to be really hard to stop, although it's going to be maybe a little easier to slow down with some of what's going on. But I'm going to go over what some folks are saying and why even some of the things we're doing right now might be futile efforts. So the World Health Organization just called this a global pandemic as of 3/12. So 2 days ago, the WHO said this is a pandemic. And what that means is just about everyone in the world is going to see this. Not going to stop it. So it's going everywhere. It's spread via droplets. So if I cough or sneeze on you and I have it, it's going on you or in you. I've read and I've heard from folks at Johns Hopkins and from folks at the disease research policy at University of Minnesota these are the guys at infectious disease there, that this can stay on surfaces for anywhere between 72 hours and all the way out to double that. So if it's sitting on surfaces that long and it's airborne, what are our chances of doing anything about this spreading? So that's the first question we have to ask. And yes, we can slow this down. We can stop meeting in big groups. We can maybe stay at home. And I'll go over some of the things that you can do if you think you're exposed. But what we have to realize is that 80% of people who contract this virus, over 80, have moderate to mild symptoms, and that's it. So we're dealing with a vast majority of people that have contact with this virus, have nothing much wrong with them other than a mild fever, a dry cough, and then they recover. Some folks, though, are going to have some severe problems with this, and this is where things kind of get tricky. So when the WHO calls it a pandemic, when it's airborne, when it's on surfaces for as long as it's lasting, we have to take a look at what's going on here as far as mortality rates so we can understand the danger levels. And if you look at China, if you just look at China, the initial cases, you had about 14.8% mortality rate in folks over 80. That is a very, very high mortality rate in folks over 80. I mean, that's almost 15%. That's a lot. When you get down to folks in their 70s, that dropped to 8%. When you get down to folks in their 60s, that dropped to 3.6%. And then when you get to folks in their 50s, that dropped to 1.3%. And then below 40, it's 0.4, 0.2, 0.2, and 0 for every 10 years after that. So what looks like it's happening is that folks that are already not healthy, that are immunocompromised, that might have some comorbid disorders already, are at extreme risk of this virus, which isn't much different than the flu when you look at how the flu affects people who have comorbid diseases. So here's where things get weird, though. All right, so you can be without symptoms for 5 to 6 days and still have this virus. So 5 to 6 days, you have this thing and have no symptoms whatsoever. So do we know right now if you have the virus? No, we just don't. And we don't know if anyone we have contact with has the virus. And the masks, everyone in public policy and public health says the masks don't work unless you're the one who's sick. And the only reason those are working then is because you're coughing and sneezing and you don't want to get that on other people. But wearing them when you're healthy does absolutely nothing. So, and what do we do when they say don't touch your face and we have a mask on and we're constantly readjusting it? We're always touching our face. So we're doing kind of the opposite with that stuff. If you're not in healthcare and you're not in a clinic or a hospital, or you're not the one sick, those masks are doing absolutely nothing. You've got a really high mortality rate of something that's spreading airborne. If you are already unhealthy, you are at severe risk, and there's some severe complications that can make this worse, which we'll go over. But here's the thing we have to understand. This isn't the flu. This is spreading much, much faster. The seasonal flu has about a 0.1% death rate. This is estimated to have, from Johns Hopkins, a 0.5 to 2% death rate. That is dramatically higher than the flu, but over 80% of people who get this have mild symptoms, and that's it. So it's not killing the healthy, and I want to reiterate that. This virus is killing and affecting largely those that are already unhealthy, and that's what we have to realize. So the folks at Johns Hopkins and the folks at CDC are all saying, if you get this, there's nothing they can do. Nothing. Just supportive care. That's it. There's no treatment for this. There's no vaccine for this. There's nothing that they can do. They're experimenting a little bit with some Ebola medicines that they've used in that virus, and they're experimenting with those, but nothing's definitive. It's going to take too long to get trials done on something like that. So supportive care, that's all you can do. And I don't like to say if you get this. When we look at the fact that this is spreading as fast as it is, and if it is indeed airborne, it's when you get this, not if. It's just a matter of staying healthy during that time so that you can fight this thing off, kill it, have the antibodies to it, so that you're not going to get it again. So how's that sound so far? Are we good?
I mean, it sounds great. Curiosity is, what can we who are healthy or somewhat healthy do to boost our immune system and otherwise prepare for when we get it?
Well, let's look at what they can do according to the folks that are studying this in infectious disease, and some of the experts globally are saying, look, if you're sick, if you think you've been exposed, if you know you've been exposed, they're saying you need to self-quarantine for 14 days. That's a long time, folks. 14 days in your house, away from other people. And if you do have the symptoms, and you do get sick, and you do have the fever and the cough, you need to wait an entire 24-hour period after all of those are gone before you should go out and see other people. So for some folks, that could mean a long, long time, up to 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks for some folks that have been exposed if they're symptomatic. What all the experts are recommending, if you're symptomatic and your fever gets too high or you start getting the shortness of breath, you need to call your doctor, schedule an appointment, and go. Don't go without calling. They definitely want you to call first, get a mask on, go see your doctor, because it might be something more serious. So most people may even get this and confuse it for the regular flu because the symptoms are very, very similar, with the exception of a dry cough, which typically doesn't happen with the seasonal flu. So when we look at medical impact, and this is very important, we have to look at medical impact of this particular virus. They're saying 2 to 12 times worse than the flu. Now, that's the medical impact. That's the people that are going to be in the ICU. That's the people that are going to need ongoing care, that got sick, that maybe had something else going wrong where they're immunocompromised. Now, if we look at the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, their estimates right now, they're conservatively estimating this is going to last over the next 3 to 7 months. So not just a weekend. Buying toilet paper is doing nothing for you. It's just ridiculous what I'm seeing at the grocery stores out here in California. It's crazy. 3 to 7 months. I've seen estimates of 9 to 12 months, with a little dip in the summer and a large recurrence in the fall again. So this could be an entire year of this. The University of Minnesota is saying they're looking at projecting 96 million cases in the US alone, with 48 million hospitalizations and right around 480,000 deaths in the next 3 to 7 months. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
Sounds like a lot, but short of the hospitals having more capacity to handle people, if the duration is longer, say a year as opposed to 4 months, is there any benefit to trying to truncate this period when it sounds like it's going to hit the majority of us anyway?
So I think what they're doing is trying to slow down and flatten that curve a little bit so that they can get something in place as far as hospitalization, emergency treatment. Because what you're seeing in Italy, and this is a real thing that's happening in Italy, they're out of hospital beds. So physicians are literally making the call, who's going to die? Because they can't treat everyone. They're not even screening nurses and doctors for the disease anymore, because if enough of them have it, they wouldn't have enough staff to man the hospitals and clinics, and more people would suffer. So they have nurses and doctors that if they're sick, they're coming in. As long as they're not coughing all over people, they're still coming into work. So that's how fast this is moving. And my theory is the reason you have so many public health officials saying, stay home, don't meet in person, don't go out, is because they're trying to slow that down. Everything I've heard from the experts that I've listened to, you're not going to stop this. You can slow it down, but we're not stopping it. That's everything I've heard. So
has anybody commented on the likelihood of finding a cure or vaccine?
Well, that's what they're going to have to do, but that usually takes a year. Mm-hmm. So, and they can make one tomorrow, but is it going to be effective? Is it going to be safe? That's the problem. So when you're looking at 80% of the cases are better with just mild reactions, I may have already had this. I don't know. People ask me all the time, well, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, here's what we know. Once you've had this, you are no longer going to have it unless it mutates in some strange way and gets worse or changes. So when you've had this already this year, you're not going to have it again. So because your body is exposed to it, it has the antibodies to it, it knows what to do. So if I've had this, if you've had this, we're really good to be out in public because we're not going to get it again. We're not going to carry it. We're not going to transmit it. Our body will destroy it when it gets in there. Well, maybe that's the best thing to do is just move through this. But what we're seeing, and I don't know if that's the right course of action or not, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay super healthy. So if I've been exposed or if I do get exposed, I'm one of the mild to moderate cases, and then I can just move through the rest of my year knowing that, hey, I'm through this. Now, not everyone's going to have that ability, but we started this conversation today with we need to take radical personal accountability for our own health. So if I'm healthy, it's my responsibility to be healthy. It's not my doctor's, it's not my insurance company, and it's not up to government policy for me to take care of my body. This is my body. I get one of them, and it's supposed to last me about 100 years in a healthy way. So that's what I want to talk to you about in the second half of this is how exactly do we do that? Now, I lecture on this for 6 hours at a time. I can do a 6-hour lecture on how to stay healthy. But instead, we'll just let's do the free stuff that people right now can do. And it's not buy toilet paper and masks at Sam's Club. That's not how we're going to fight this thing. How we're going to fight this thing is we're going to go to bed every night for at least 8 hours. That's the number one thing people can do right now to boost their immune system is just go to bed and stay in bed and sleep for 8 hours. That's the number one thing we can do. It costs no money at all. And still we have people not doing that. So that's number one. Number two is drink lots of water. 3 liters of water. That's 100 ounces of water per day as an adult. That's the number 2 thing we can do. And in this country, it costs no money whatsoever if you're choosing to drink tap water. Those are 2 things we can do right now to increase our health and increase our immune response. One of the other things we can do is go outside. Not out in public, but outside, out into the wild, out into the sun, out where the air hits your face. That's another thing that we can do because of our reaction as an animal outside is different. We get fresh air, we get some movement, we're going to get some vitamin D because our sun is exposed, or the skin on the outside of our meat suit is exposed to the sun. We get some delicious vitamin D from that. And vitamin D is a powerful, powerful immune booster. And it helps us sleep better because of how it affects the relationship between serotonin and melatonin when you've got high enough vitamin D levels. That's something that we can do right now that doesn't cost any money is move our bodies outside. Movement, outdoors, away from people if you want to, guys. That's fine. Just get out into nature a little bit, move your body, get some really good sleep, and drink some water. How's that for free? They cost nothing. And yet we're still not doing that. We're isolating ourselves indoors, watching the stupid big blue box and getting scareder and scareder because that big blue box is telling you to be fearful of what's going on right now. And the reality is the vast majority of us that are relatively healthy have nothing to fear other than are we carrying and transmitting to others. That's the only thing we need to be concerned about. If I'm living in close proximity to folks that are immunocompromised, that aren't healthy, I want to be extra careful like that. That's all we can do. Those are the free things. There's a lot more stuff we can do if we want to spend a little bit of money on it.
There is. If you can talk for 6 hours, there's a lot you've got up your sleeve. One of the things you mentioned when we got together last was if you feel like you've somehow lost control or you've strayed from some of these healthier habits, just get away from civilization or get into nature. Nature will quickly remind you of what's healthy. And it sounds like this is an opportunity for people. Not to say it's a blessing in disguise by any stretch, but it's an opportunity for people to hit the reset. And like you said, start some healthier habits, getting to sleep, getting outside, any other opportunities that might be hidden from obvious view here.
Yeah, well, what I realize is that if this is anything at all, it's a pretty dramatic one at that, right? We're going to lose a lot of citizens from this. Most of the citizens we're losing from this are already sick. So this is where things are going to get dicey, because how do we know if they died of a smoking-related disease or if they died of COVID-19? How will we know when they did both? When they had the virus, when they had SARS-CoV-2, and they were a smoker, how do we know which one killed them? How do we know if they were clinically obese, severely obese, with heart disease and type 2 diabetes, and they get this virus? How do we know what killed them? Because these are all going to go in as COVID-19 deaths. And when you're looking at people estimating 480,000 deaths in the next year of this, that's how many people we lose every year due to smoking-related death here in the US. It's the number one preventable cause of death in this country is smoking, and we lose about 480,000 people to that every year. So we lose 670,000 people due to heart disease every year, and 90% of that, according to the CDC, is preventable. We're losing hundreds of thousands of people to type 2 diabetes in this country every year, and most of that is preventable. So if this virus does anything other than let us and force us to pay attention to our own health, maybe it's that. And so when we look at what you can do, and when I say go outside, I mean go into nature. Nature's got every answer we've ever needed because that's where we spent most of our past. Most of our past was outside. It's only been the last couple generations that we've been sitting in these wonderful buildings all day, all the time. So the answers that we find out there, the foods that we would eat out there, the way we would move our bodies, the way we'd sometimes be really hot and sometimes really cold. It's not always 70 degrees outside, unless you live in Santa Barbara. It's not always 70 and comfortable. We're going to sweat. We're going to be a little bit cold. We're going to have days where we don't have food, and then we're going to have days where we have all the food. We're going to have to move if we want to eat. We're going to sleep when that sun goes down. We're going to have a huge tribal support community because tribal support when you're outside is vitally important to human survival. We're going to do all of the things that we should have been doing the whole time if we spend a little bit more time outside. So obviously, if we have a virus and our body is fighting, we need rest, we need lots of water. People know that, but people wait till they get sick to do that. They wait till they get an illness to get sleep, drink water, not stress out. They wait till the sickness happens. What I encourage people to do is do all that stuff preemptively. Go to bed, stop stressing out. I'm asking employers that I work with to offer as many extra vacation days as you can to your employees so that you don't spread this thing further. It's a beautiful thing if people can offer that, if they can keep their doors open and offer that so their employees don't make everyone else even sicker. That's wonderful. That's one of the things that employers can do right now to step up is, okay, how do we give people more time off, paid so they can still buy groceries and pay their mortgage and not spread this virus further or make it even worse. Staying home is a great option. Working from home is a great option. But if they do, you can't work from home as a server serving food. So maybe if those folks are ill, if we can get some paid time off in places like that where we have to be present to do our job. That's one of the things that employers can do right now. One of the things people can do right now is, I've got a whole list. It's only a couple hours a week though, right? Get severely hot if you're not sick right now. I like to sauna on a regular basis because then it keeps my immune system that much healthier, because the weak stuff in our body dies off at those temperatures. There's a whole host of things that happen when we get into the sauna. There's a whole host of things that happen if we just stop eating so damn much food. Sometimes we just have to do the things that are uncomfortable to kill off the weak versions of ourselves, so that when something happens, we can fight the stuff in our bodies much easier, because only the strong have survived this long.
You'd mentioned when we got together.
Yeah.
Growth hurts. Two simple words, but there's a lot behind that. People tend to avoid pain. It's one of the basic factors of human motivation. Why should we go to the pain? Why should we go to the hurt?
Yeah. Well, in some instances, so there's these cells in our body. They're called senescent cells. They're cells that are still alive, but they're not replicating any further. So they're done making new cells. They're kind of not functioning anymore. They should have died a day ago or 2 days ago, or in some cases 3 or 4 days ago. And all they're doing is sitting in your body, secreting some inflammatory chemicals designed to try to get the immune system to come clear them out. And they're creating a very, very bad environment for all of the cells around them. Some scientists will even call these zombie cells, because they're alive, but they're not doing anything. And all they're doing is pissing everything off around them, and they're causing some inflammation. One of the ways that we can get rid of those cells is to embrace some of the pain. Some heat, some freezing cold temperatures have been known to kill those senescent cells, because they don't have compensatory mechanisms to deal with extreme heat or cold. So you can kill off some of these weak things. We also know that when your body doesn't have food, and it's trying to make new body, which it's going to do every day whether you want it to or not, you're going to make about 75 billion cells today. And it's going to use building blocks to make those cells. If you're not putting food in as those building blocks, the body will start to eat parts of itself to make new itself. So it eats itself to make itself, but it doesn't pick on the strong stuff. It goes and picks on those weak cells that are easy for it to go grab, rip apart, use them for spare parts, and then excrete whatever's left over. So we know that that happens when we just don't eat. So most people that are listening to me right now have done a 3-day fast. They don't remember. It was called the flu. You get the flu, you can't eat for 2 or 3 days, and then you still live. And most people, when they're done with the flu, feel way better than they did before they got it. And that's not only because the virus is now gone, but that's because their body was able to kill a lot of that weak stuff as well. Whether it was that fever or whether it was the fact that they weren't eating, their body was allowed to go in and clean up. Well, I like to do those things preemptively, and sometimes they suck. The sauna hurts. It really does. If you want bigger muscles, it hurts. If you want a better performing heart and lungs, if you want a higher VO2 max, if you want to be able to process air better, it hurts. It always hurts to do those things, but that's how we make a stronger human being. Growth hurts, but the suffering that goes along with it is optional. So I embrace the hurt. I embrace sometimes the hunger. Just don't eat. Sometimes I eat everything though, but that's very rare. So there's these seasons that we used to go through, and we just don't do it anymore, and our body isn't programmed for not doing it anymore, so it's causing a lot of harm. I tell people right now, if you got kids, you need to teach them this lesson right now, no matter how old they are. Growth hurts. When your bones are growing, they hurt. When your muscles are growing, they hurt. When your heart and lungs are growing and getting better, they hurt. If you want to grow your brain and you want to learn more stuff, sometimes that's painful. Growth hurts, but the suffering is optional. And what happens now at the end of life, because I'm left every day with stronger and stronger body, all the weak stuff is dying. And I do this on a very regular basis. Stronger and stronger body lasts longer with less disease. So I'm adding years to the back end of my life. I still live a very, very fun, full life. I don't eat salads every day, guys. It's just not the way it is. I have fun with food. I can eat steak and lobster and still be on a healthy diet. So I have fun with life. I don't stress. I get good sleep. I sauna as regularly as I can when I'm on the road. I try to get into the gym to make my muscles bigger. I get in the sauna whenever I can. It's not that tough. It really isn't. So I know there's lots of questions, and I know I lecture on this for hours and hours and hours, but the reason I do that is because for people, this is human physiology, and we're all biologically different, but we're all kind of the same. Unless you were born with a genetic disorder, most of us can function with the same programming, and most of us are going to need kind of the same things. And if you don't know what you need, go camping for a week with your family, and it works itself out. You're going to find very, very quickly how you respond to that outdoor environment as an animal, because that's where you were most of your evolutionary past.
Dan.
Yes.
Every year when we go camping, we get to sleep earlier than we do the rest of the year. We get deeper, darker, better sleep. Everything you're saying makes sense. So there's this thing called 75 hard. I know precious little about it. I only know 2 of my teammates are doing it, and it means they're working out twice a day, drinking 0 booze, and there's some other things that go along with it, I think. I feel like now with these basic healthy pointers you've got and the practical steps people can take as they're starting to live life a bit differently with a bit more separation, maybe there's some kind of challenge or something you can prescribe, simple and practical, for your everyday guy or gal. What can we do if we're going to sum up your prescription in a few words?
Yeah, well, let's do this. Let's do the same thing I do in workplaces. We're going to do 3 easy things for the next 28 days, and I dare you to do them. And the reason I say that is because I do these every day, and I've been doing them for years. So they're not that hard. You do these every day, and you do them nonstop for 28 days. So these are the 3 things we're going to do, and I dare you to do them, because I have heard miracle stories after 28 days. And I'll share just a couple of things from you after 4 months of doing this. From some people that are near and dear to me that are doing this in the workplace. So the first thing I want you to do is sleep for 8 hours a night. That's the first thing. And we can track that however you want to track it, 8 hours of sleep per night. Done. Second, is that easy enough? It's super easy, right? Second thing we're going to do is we are going to move 10,000 steps per day. We're going to get adequate human movement by measuring it however you want to measure it. It doesn't have to be fast. And move 10,000 steps per day. The third thing we're going to do is eat single ingredient foods. And that means fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, and the meats and the fishes and the eggs. Single ingredient. If your food has more than 1 ingredient, you should not eat it for the next 28 days. You can do anything you want in there. You can have only vegetables if you want. You can have fruits and vegetables. You can put nuts and seeds in there. I'm hoping they're not honey roasted, because those aren't single ingredient. Anything you want to do. You want to eat just solid chicken for the whole 28 days? Good luck to you. It's going to get kind of weird. Any single ingredient food can go into your cart at the grocery store. You can go home and you make whatever you want with that. If you do that for 28, transformational things happen in your body. And I'll share just a couple of things. So I have a gal, I talk about her all the time. Her name is Pam. Pam, in the last 4 months, has lost 58 pounds doing this. Maybe we just sit with that number. No gym membership, no dieting, eats whenever she wants to, stops when she's full. She's down 58 pounds in 4 months. And in month 2, she had a total. So she did this needing a total.
You blanked out there. It went mute. You said in the course of the 2nd month. What happened?
She needed a total knee replacement. So when she started this, she had bone on her knee. 2 months later, she had a total knee replacement. That's halfway through. She had a total knee. She was already down 30 pounds. Now she's 4 months in and down 58 pounds. And during that, she had a total knee replacement. If somebody's using an excuse that they can't do this, they're exactly right. The minute you throw an excuse out, you're right. But if you say, hey, if Pam can do this, I'm doing this, then you'll succeed. I've had other people accidentally lose 12 pounds in that first month. Fit, healthy people that thought they were fit and healthy, that were eating way too many French fries way too often, that were eating way too many sandwiches for lunch way too often, that gorged on pizza every single weekend, lose 12 pounds in a month from just eating single ingredient foods, going to bed and walking around for the 16 hours that they're awake. This is not hard. It's very, very easy. And the food is cheaper. People think it's hard to eat healthy because it's expensive. I didn't say organic. I said single ingredient. It doesn't matter what you're buying there. Buy whatever. Incredibly inexpensive when you compare them to some of the other things people buy. There's no healthy Oreos. Oreos are not on this program. Humans suck at so much stuff we're told to do to be healthy. We suck at moderation. We suck at portion control. We suck at counting calories. And that's how we're told we're supposed to eat whatever you want to. As long as it's a single ingredient food, you can combine it however you want to, put it on your plate, and watch what happens. You don't have to exercise portion control or moderation or calorie counting when you're eating nature's single ingredient foods, because she's not going to let you hurt yourself with them. We've been doing this for a long, long time when we lived outside, and we've deviated from it. That's my challenge to you. If you can do that, then you tell me if you even got sick from this virus, because if you could be fit and healthy, you might not even know. These symptoms might be so mild in some people, they don't even know they're ill. And if it's taking 6 days for them to show up, how does anyone watching this webinar know if they even have it? It's taking 6 days to show up. You don't even know. So if it's going to be that inevitable, let's just treat this thing with so much dignity and respect that it's super healthy all the time anyway. And then our chances of spreading this or bringing this to other people or getting it ourselves and being hospitalized are very, very slim. So that's all we need to do. And I make that sound easy, but it's been easy the whole time. We're the ones making it hard because it's so much easier to give our health to someone else, because then we don't have responsibility. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're watching this, you're not a victim. You're responsible for your body. So start dealing with it. If you're not where you want to be right now, if you're watching this and you're like, I suck right now, then start today. Don't start tomorrow. Don't start next week. I'm going to see how it goes. Start right now today. Make a commitment with you and your family and get healthy right now. You don't have to struggle through this. It's not that big of a deal. It's that simple. I can talk for an hour on.
Yeah, I know you can, and I want you to, but just for tradition's sake, I'll interrupt with a question here or there. You're shifting the mindset, right? From being a spectator to being a participant, from reading the news to making the most relevant news, which is our own, in a sense. I experienced your talk on some of this, but certainly some other stuff back in November, 4 months back, 5 months back, and I've changed things dramatically. Single ingredient, totally doable. Simple, I'd put it somewhere between easy and hard. It's as hard as you let it be. If you're resolute, which when I was, it happened like that. When I wasn't and it became an issue, it was a decision point each day. When it was a non-issue and I said, done, this is how I'm going to do it, it became much easier. Sauna, super enjoyable. 8 hours of sleep, revolutionary. These things are simple. Is there data or other anecdotes you can share out there on how our immunity improves when we take some of these steps, getting the vitamin D and otherwise?
Yeah, the strange thing is if you go to PubMed and you start looking at scientific studies on these tips with immunity, there's several. What I like to do is go, well, what happens worst case? What are the side effects if I mess this up? What are the side effects if you eat single ingredient foods? So I like to look at, if I can boost my immunity and there's no downside, then I'm going to do it. There's even supplements I take with almost no downside whatsoever, and most of the people who take them, I'm going to put those in too. I'm going to do everything I can to boost this. Now, people will look at this and go, well, supplements cost money. Yep, they do. They absolutely do, but so do medicines, and so does time in the hospital, and so does being ill. So when we look at what we can do to up level, if we're already doing basics, now I don't want people on supplements that aren't doing the basics. That's a waste of money. If you're not going to take care of this thing yourself and then you're going to look for a supplement to do this, that's just like looking for a medicine to fix something that you broke yourself. How about we stop breaking it? And if we're already dialed in on the basics, if we're sleeping, if we're moving, if we don't have a whole lot of stress in our lives, if we're eating really good foods, if we're sauning on a regular basis, if we're getting to bed and getting good sleep, then let's maybe see if we can put some supplements in the mix to even make this better. People ask me all the time, well, what are you doing, Dan? What are you taking during this outbreak? I'm like, well, it's the same stuff I take all the time. I'm not changing my supplement regimen because there's some sort of an outbreak. I take this stuff on a daily basis. So that is my, hey, Dan Miller's going to live way past 100. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I tell you what, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have people email for a list because there's a lot of stuff, but I'll tell you what it is. So don't try to take notes on this, you guys, because then you're going to try to, what was he taking or what is that? Now keep in mind, this is what I take, not what I'm saying you should take. You need to make your own decisions. We're all different. Some people might be on 14 medications from their doctor. I'm on a stack of supplements to make sure I never need a doctor. This just helps boost my immune system. So I'll go over what's in this little baggie, but this is my day. And then I take this powder. This is an immune boosting powder. This is one of the most potent antivirals known to man. This powder is one of the number one things I do. I mean, short of dialing in that baseline stuff, the actions that we can take, this powder was just issued a patent in Canada against 13 different viruses. So this is a very, very powerful immune boosting powder, and it doesn't do anything to the viruses itself. It gives the body the ability to do its own job. So it's what we call immune nutrition, meaning we give the body the nutrition it needs on a regular basis through this powder, and then it makes its own antioxidant called glutathione, and it does that very, very well. So it all stays in a natural system, in a self-regulatory feedback system, so it's not interrupting that. That's the number one thing that I would tell people they need right now during a viral outbreak is something that's been shown to boost the body's ability to fight viruses. So this is, for me, I'm doing this 3 times a day versus once a day. And then I've got this little stack of stuff right here, which what I suggest people do is say, hey, what's in this? I'm going to go through the list quick. But then if you want the full list or where to find these, most of these are just bought on Amazon. And
you want the full list. We'll get it in writing after.
That's the best way to do it because I'll even put the Amazon links in there because most of this stuff is on Amazon. A couple of these I have to carry and I sell to people, but most of these are on Amazon. I've got an omega-3 fish oil. I've got a couple of pills for a whole food vitamin supplement. I've got a probiotic in here. I have CBD in here. I have some selenium. I have a couple of anti-aging things in here, nicotinamide mononucleotide, some things that people are like, I don't even know what he just said. There's a couple of pills in here that are going to help me live longer that have been shown to assist in cellular support. So I take this daily with my biggest meal. And then I have a couple of things I take in the evening, like this thing I take a couple of times a day, and there's another dose of CBD that comes later or another serving of CBD. None of these are dosed because they're not medicine. They're all just supplements. I'll get you a full list, or people can email me for the full list. Just say, dude, send me your supplement list, or you can send it to them. However we do that, and I'll send you a full list of everything that I take. Now, I haven't been sick in years. It's not these that are keeping me well for the last 8 years without being sick. It's my daily habits that do that. These support those efforts once those efforts are in place. This is not a substitute for daily action. It's not. You can't just supplement your health. It's not going to work like that. I don't want anyone on a single supplement unless they're taking accountability and some personal action towards their health first. Then we can supplement with this because then everything works way better that way.
I love it. So you're leaving us with a treasure chest here. We've got the 10,001, 8 hours of sleep, 10,000 steps, and then 1 ingredient, simple foods. Sleep, steps, simple foods, and supplements. And supplements are not substitutes.
Right.
That's a bunch to take away. Anything else, since we've got access to arguably the guy on the planet who's out there more than anyone else with CEOs over 200 days a year, addressing CEOs and their companies on practical steps, not just to build healthy cultures, but to build health. And as you can see, with individual accountability, at this point, people are in many ways on their own. What
Right.
else, if anything, should we be doing? And I know you can talk for 8 hours, but just
Yeah.
keeping it high level for now. People can
Let's
always
do
learn more. We'll share a link to where they can learn more about you.
Let's do it easy. Fear spreads faster than virus. If you are scared and you are making decisions based on fear, you need to stop doing that right now. That's the worst thing we can do right now, is be scared. But we can, I'm not saying just brush this off. I'm saying stop freaking out and start taking personal accountability and get some tribe members to support those actions. That's one of the most powerful things that we can do, and we have largely lost that in our society. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to work still in person, live, that is a form of a tribe. If that tribe isn't healthy or moving towards health, we need to do something different at work. One of the big things I ask employers to do is get soda machines out of the workplace. Stop buying crappy, sugary snacks for your people because you think they want it. Nobody wants to be sick, and we're not supporting them where they spend most of the day. Most people's workplaces are one of the most toxic places they go. So the folks listening to this are probably CEOs. You're probably in charge of a whole bunch of people. You're their tribe 40 hours a week or more. Make sure that you're supporting their efforts and get some tribal support in that community so that you're moving towards health instead of just keeping on with the diseases that are happening in this country, because we're getting worse. If you don't know, we live to 78 years. That's our average lifespan. That number has gone backwards 3 years in a row. When the new numbers come out, it'll probably be 4. How are we dying earlier than we were 4 years ago with all the modern technology that we have today? It's staggeringly ridiculous that we just accept this. It's not the fact that we're missing medicine, folks. It's the fact that we're refusing to step up and take care of ourselves. Your family needs it. Your business needs it. Your people need it. It's time to start acting like a really healthy, active tribe member instead of just kind of coasting, hoping somebody else will fix it for you if it goes wrong. So the main shift here, and what I want people to really take away from this is a mindset shift forever towards health, not just to get through this viral thing that's going around. This is forever. Change your mindset towards health forever. That's the biggest thing you can do, and get some tribe members in there to support that.
Mm-hmm. You've gone down trips with CEOs into some pretty remote areas. Can you say a few words about the perspective that dawns on folks when they simplify their lives and get out to some of these faraway regions?
Yeah, when we take them to places like Peru, and we've got a Peru trip coming up in the end of June and July, and that's if they don't have a travel ban, right? I'm not going to be able to do anything if there's a travel ban, but if there isn't, I'm going. We're going to this destination. We're taking people. We're changing their lives. But what we find most is that a lot of us hold ourselves back. We don't live in our true power because we believe some lies from maybe our childhood, or we believe some lies from maybe our young adulthood, or we believe some lies that somebody else has told us about ourselves. So we don't sit in our true power, and we don't realize just how powerful of creatures that we are. So one of the things that we do when we take people to remote destinations is we not only get them to open their mind up to what they're actually capable of, but we get them to open their heart up to what they're actually capable of and why they should be doing those things. With an open heart and an open mind, we can change a lot of society. My goal is act as locally as possible. If you want to come with on a journey, I'm going to walk beside you the entire way. And if I can't, one of my tribe members will do it. I have a lot of other coaches that are working with me on this. We will help you in any way that we can. If somebody says, I need help, we're going to find a way to do that. That's just what we do. But we take people to these remote regions. Some of the things we get back, feedback from them is, I had no idea I was capable of so much. I didn't know life could feel like this. And these are people in their 50s coming to those realizations. That's what we do in those locations, is we get them to open up their heart and their mind and solidify a plan of action for the upcoming 12 months.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I want to keep you on for hours to hear the full unabridged set of talks and the accumulated wisdom and knowledge. You've been talking to CEOs and folks for years, accumulating lots of not just data, but some experiential knowledge as well. I mean, you've got full context fighting under your belt, a record for the longest run at one stint. I mean, some really exceptional things. At the same time, you can only assimilate so much in one talk. You gave us a bunch to walk away with. I want to provide any links that you think can be helpful as well for folks to learn more if they want to go deeper. For now, I'm immensely grateful that you've shared at the time you did, the time when people are, I think, curious and looking not just to get the description of what's going on, but a prescription on what they can actually do that might make a difference. So for that, tremendous thanks. And let's keep the lines open as well. We'll see if we can stoke a conversation. Folks can always reach out to me for your contact information, but we'll post whatever information you're comfortable sharing online and through our newsletter as well. Dan Miller, tremendous thanks. Sorry about the 8 restarts with the video.
Sure.
Any closing words you care to share? And once again, tremendous thanks for your time here.
I guess if I were to wrap this up, I would just say, you guys, you got to love yourself enough to take care of yourself and stop freaking out. Just love yourself enough to take care of yourself. And if you don't know how to take care of yourself, go rewatch this video. I just told you how to take care of yourself. It's not as hard as we're making it seem. So some personal accountability for your own health. Don't have one of those comorbid diseases already when this stuff is going around. If you're smoking, let's get you to stop smoking. My goodness, it's not as hard as people make it think. It's because there's some mental thing in there that we believe this is all hard, that we don't want to do it. It's not. You got to surround yourself with people that love you and feel integrated into that tribe, and then things get easy. So my parting words are, stop hurting yourself. It's not doing you any favors, and it's going to end horribly. I watched it happen with both of my parents, and that's not how we're supposed to die. So just love yourself enough. Take some actions. Start today. Don't start tomorrow. Start right now. When you're done with it, start today. And then if you don't know how, reach out for help. We've got a whole tribe of people willing to help you.
Peter Drucker, the great management authority, said, a lot of times executives don't need to be told what to start doing. They need to be told what to stop doing. And when we listen to Dan Miller, it's not a heck of a lot different, right? Sleeping, stop waking yourself up early, right? Foods, stop eating the garbage. Smoking, stop. So for that and the stuff we should start doing, tremendous thanks once again, and look forward to reconnecting soon, my friend.
I appreciate you.